Alright, what's up folks? Rich Van Tassel back with you, continuing on with our game picks for Week 13 of the NFL season, and of course, we are recording audio for Get Live Radio. The Houston Texans, 4-7, 1-4 on the road, travel to Nashville to play the Titans, who are 7-4, 4-1 at home. Injuries first for the visiting Texans. Chris Clark, offensive tackle. Ben Heaney, linebacker, are injury reserve outs. Brian Cushing, linebacker. Will Fuller, the fifth. Wide receiver Brennan Scarlett, linebacker, are out. And of course, that does not include Deshaun Watson, Whitney Merciless, and J.J. Watt, key contributors who have been done for the season for a while now. For the Tennessee Titans, Rashard Matthews, the wide receiver, is questionable. Tennessee still in both the thick of the wild card and the AFC South race. Houston would probably have to win out to make the playoffs, and even that would most likely not be enough at this point. Marcus Mariota, 9 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. He has to clean that up. Regardless of where they finish this season, they're almost certainly going to the playoffs. If they want to take any progression, make some noise in the playoffs, Marcus Mariota has got to play better. He's high in the incompletions as well. Of course, Tennessee runs the ball very well with Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. Look for a steady dose of that. Houston just can't keep pace at this point. The injuries are really affecting this team, and you have to feel for the guys because they've been losing so many players. Eventually, I know it's a no-excuse league, but you get to a point where a team is simply just compromised by all the injuries they've had. DeAndre Hopkins is playing very well this year, just shy of 70 catches, over 1,000 yards. He could give the Titans some fits. Their secondary has come along at times. This will be a nice test for them moving forward. All in all, I expect Tennessee to control the clock. DeAndre Hopkins will have a big game in this one, but Tennessee will be able to run the ball enough to keep them off the field and look for Houston to turn the ball over at times. Tennessee comes away with a 23-16 victory over the Houston Texans as Houston struggles to find the end zone. The Denver Broncos, very disappointing, 3-8, 0-5 on the road, travel to Miami to play the Dolphins, who are 4-7, 2-3 at home. As we just discussed with 4-7 teams with the Houston Texans, Miami would have to win out, and even that will likely not be enough at this point. Injuries for the visiting Broncos: Shane Ray, linebacker, pass rushing linebacker, DeMarcus Walker, defensive end, and Todd Davis, linebacker, are all questionable. Domata Peko, defensive tackle, and Ron Leary, a guard, are out. For the Miami Dolphins, Jermon Bushrod, guard, and Maurice Smith, safety, are out. Sonoris Perry, running back, Michael Thomas, safety, Devin Godchuk, defensive tackle, are all questionable. For the Broncos, it's been a disappointing season all the way around. They're likely turning back to Trevor Siemian at this point. Who knows, though? Paxton Lynch may get the start. You just don't know what to do with this team. Trevor Siemian was serviceable, but you had to make the switch to Paxton Lynch to see what he has, but at this point, Lynch is definitely not up to the par that Trevor Siemian was. Not to say that Lynch won't be there in the future, but right now, Denver is really struggling. That offense is really letting that defense down, and it's become a lost year for the Denver Broncos. So we'll have to see what they can get going with Paxton Lynch if he plays. He was hurt last week. We'll have to see. I would expect Siemian to probably be the starter. I don't even see Brock Osweiler being in it. Miami is not in that much better of a position. Jay Cutler, they could turn back to him. He's been turning the ball over at times. It's been less than it usually has been with Jay Cutler, but it's still been at critical moments. Neither one of these teams is going much of anywhere. I think Denver traveling down to Miami, it'll be too much for them, and Miami will be able to at least move the ball enough, though Denver does have a quality secondary. Look for a sloppy game all the way around. Let's see if there's any weather down there in the Miami. You never know. That could certainly make it a lot sloppier, but I expect turnovers, I expect problems, but I expect Miami nonetheless to come away with a 17-14 victory over the Denver Broncos. The Kansas City Chiefs really sliding at 6-5, 3-3 on the road, travel to New York to play the Jets, who are 4-7, 3-3 at home. Of course, as we've just discussed with the last two teams, what you need to do at 4-7 to have any chance of making the playoffs, and it's unlikely at this point. Injuries for the visiting Chiefs: Charkandrick West, running back, D. Ford, pass rushing linebacker, and Eric Murray, cornerback, are all out. Albert Wilson, wide receiver, Tamba Ali, linebacker, are questionable. For the Jets, Justin Burris, cornerback, is out. The rest are questionable. Brian Winters, guard, Matt Forte, running back, Xavier Cooper, defensive end. Kansas City is coming back to the Meadowlands to play. They are one of the few teams that every year has to make 2 trips to the Meadowlands. They've already played the Giants there. and now they're playing the Jets. They lost to the Giants. That was a disappointing game, and that was not too long ago. Let's see if they've been able to spit the bad taste out of their mouth. Kansas City has just fallen into a situation where things have kind of snowballed out of control at this point. A lot of talk of whether or not they'll turn to Mahomes. Alex Smith has started to turn the ball over. I don't think the problem with the Chiefs, though, has necessarily been their quarterback play. I don't think the receivers have played up to par in the last couple weeks. Travis Kelce, I think, has come back down to earth a little bit. He's their tight end, and he's their leading receiver. And when those things start to go, especially with a quarterback like Alex Smith, you're going to see problems moving forward. What can the Jets do in this game? The Jets, certainly, you have to give them credit. They are much improved than many people would have thought that they would have been this year, and certainly much improved from last year. All in all, Josh McCown is starting to not be terrible. He's not really making mistakes. He's just not capable of carrying this offense where at times they're needing to go to be able to compete. Bilal Powell has been effective running the ball. Robbie Anderson quietly has been their top receiver. You look at all the playmakers the Jets lost coming into this year, and if some of them weren't injured or they had not lost some of them, where'd they be? Tricky game with this one. I think the Jets are going to be very game in this one and are going to give the Chiefs some problems, but Kansas City absolutely has to have this game and cannot lose this one, and they've been sputtering too much of late that they're going to find a way in this one to get the victory. I think Alex Smith is going to calm things down, and he's going to be very effective in this game, and Kansas City comes away with a 24-21 victory over the New York Jets. The Indianapolis Colts, 3-8, 1-4 on the road, travel to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars, who are 7-4, 3-2 at home. Jacksonville and Tennessee are tied atop the top spot in the AFC South, and of course, both of those teams also are in possession of the top wildcard spot. The team that does not win the division will be almost certainly the top wildcard spot, or in the wildcard nonetheless. It's going to be tough for either one of those teams to miss the playoffs. Injuries for the visiting Indianapolis Colts. Eric Swoop, tight end, is an injury reserve out. Rashawn Melvin, cornerback. Ryan Kelly, center. Hassan Ridgeway, defensive tackle, are also out. Dante Moncrief, the wide receiver, is questionable. For the Jaguars, Telvin Smith, linebacker. Josh Wells, offensive tackle, are out. Lorante McCray, linebacker. Patrick Omana, guard. And Jeremy Parnell, offensive tackle, are questionable. Jaguars, I gave it to them last week. They let me down, as I didn't think they were going to do much this year, but they've certainly shown the propensity to do that. Blake Bortles has kept his interceptions down. He's played fairly well. I don't want to be too hard on Blake Bortles, but of course last week he showed the mistakes at times. Look for them to get back to running the ball with Leonard Fournette, as we've discussed with opponents of the Indianapolis Colts all season long. You like to run early and then take your chances downfield. That'll also allow Blake Bortles to not turn the ball over, and that defense for Jacksonville is too strong. Indianapolis, Jacoby Brissett has been game this year, but still high with his incompletions, and all in all, Indianapolis does not have a good enough defense, and their offense has been too sporadic at times. Jacksonville better win this game, or you really are going to start to see the question marks. I expect them to come away with it 21-13 over the Indianapolis Colts. The Detroit Lions, 6-5, 4-1 on the road, travel to Baltimore to play the Ravens, who are 6-5, 3-2 at home. Baltimore currently holds the tiebreaker over the Buffalo Bills for that last wild card spot. Detroit quietly still in the thick of things at 6-5. Injuries for the visiting Lions. Jamal Agnew, cornerback. Travis Swanson, center, are out. Amir Abdullah, running back. TJ Lang, guard, questionable. For the Baltimore Ravens, Jermaine Lemonor, guard, is out. The rest are questionable. Marlon Humphrey, cornerback. Ronnie Staley, offensive tackle. Alex Collins, running back. CJ Mosley, linebacker. Which team is going to be able to run the ball in this one? Alex Collins has been much more effective than Amir Abdullah, the top rusher for the Detroit Lions, and I think Baltimore is going to run the ball very well against the Detroit Lions. A lot's going to be placed on Matt Stafford yet again. 21 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, over 3,000 yards, playing very well, but a lot is put on him to carry that offense. Will they finally be able to find a running game? I don't expect to see it against a Baltimore Ravens defense, which is still very good. That line, you have some questionables with TJ Lang. and Travis Swanson being out, Lang being the questionable for the Detroit Lions, I think that's going to affect the running game, the limited running game that Detroit already has, and it's going to put some pressure on Matt Stafford. He's not going to be able to make the plays. They'll keep it close, but Baltimore is going to find a way to get the victory in this one. I expect a late turnover from Matt Stafford. Of course, he was nursing the injury when they played on Thanksgiving. Let's keep an eye on that. But the Baltimore Ravens come away with the victory in what I expect to be a good game, 28-14 over the Detroit Lions. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes to finish up with our game picks for Week 13 of the NFL season. Stay tuned. Thank you.